This is Advanced Dungeons & Dragons for the Intellivision, one of the most iconic games for the system. But did you know it has a spiritual sequel of sorts for the Famicom in Dragon Buster 2? Let's go ahead and take Dragon Buster 2. Let's pop it in my Famicom converter and pop that in my NES and see how it holds up today. Let's go to the game. Dragon Buster 2 was published by Namco and according to MobyGames.com was released on April 27, 1989 for the Famicom. It was a sequel to Dragon Buster, a 1984 arcade game that also got a Famicom port. However, the original played more like a precursor to Zelda 2. The third and final game of the Dragon Buster series debuted on the PlayStation, changing up the gameplay again, going into a 3D action RPG style. Before I go deeper into Dragon Buster 2, allow me to give you a brief overview of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons for the Intellivision, a game I believe highly influenced Dragon Buster 2. AD&D was released for the Intellivision in 1982, almost 7 years before Dragon Buster 2. AD&D is also known as Cloudy Mountain in some circles, since the goal of the game is to reach the Cloudy Mountain at the right side of the map and collect the two pieces of the crown inside, which are guarded by two powerful winged dragons. The gameplay of Cloudy Mountain consists of going into different colored mountains. The color represents what can be found in that mountain. Gray mountains only have extra arrows inside, which you'll need as they are your only weapon, and if you run out of them, you are helpless. Blue mountains have boats needed to cross rivers on the overworld, and red mountains have axes needed to cross forests. Once inside a mountain, you cannot leave until you find an exit. As you move through the mountain, areas will open up as you get close to them. You can shoot one arrow at a time, but you need to be careful as arrows can ricochet off the walls, sometimes coming back to hurt you. When you're hurt, you change colors to show damage going from black to blue to red to dead. If you find and use the exit, you are automatically healed. There are various monsters in the mountains, some that take more arrows to defeat than others, and some that will make noises as you approach, letting you know they are near, and possibly able to hit by firing an arrow into the dark passage ahead. There is even an indestructible monster, a slow blob, as well as a bat that is harmless to you, but its noise can be distracting, and a spider that can steal your arrows if you touch it. Cloudy Mountain is considered a classic by Intellivision fans and is highly regarded to this day. Similar to the Dragon Buster series of 3 games with different gameplay styles, Cloudy Mountain was followed by Treasure of Tarman, which was a first-person dungeon RPG, and Tower of Doom, which was supposed to be the third game in the AD&D series before the license ran out and was designed to feel a little more arcade-like. That brings us to Dragon Buster 2. The game opens with a story that is thankfully in English. It sets up the sequel as actually a prequel where there is terror in the land, so you, a young archer named Carl, must get a special sword from a dragon in order to become king and establish peace in the land. Dragon Buster 2 is an action game for one player only with one standard mode of difficulty. For the basic controls, the D-pad moves you. The A button picks up items on the ground. The B button shoots arrows during the action phase and uses an item if you have one in the main overworld. Start pauses and allows you to see stats when paused. And the select button is used to enter dungeons going into the action phase. Overall, the game plays very much like a sequel to Cloudy Mountain on the Intellivision. You use a limited supply of arrows as your primary weapon, which you shoot one at a time, and they can ricochet, possibly hurting you. When you enter a structure, the dungeon reveals itself as you go. There are several enemies, some of which take more arrows than others, some that make noise, including a bird that sounds just like a tough guy, although it can't hurt you. A black crow that steals quivers of arrows laying around, a thief that makes you lose arrows if he bumps into you, creatures that temporarily possess quivers of arrows, and if you shoot them while they possess one, you destroy the quiver too, and there's also an orb that is mostly invincible. The main goal is the same: reach the Cloudy Mountain at the other side of the map that contains a fierce winged dragon, And getting there means going through obstacles by getting tools from certain dungeons, like a tomahawk to cut down trees and a boat to cross bodies of water. Your health is indicated by the color of your outfit, with blue being full health, then going down to green, yellow, and finally red, with any extra hits leading to death, although you do get your health back if you successfully find and use an exit. But there are new wrinkles and differences as well. First of all, the game is much larger, comprising of 6 levels, with each level getting progressively harder, with some enemies able to absorb more damage as the levels increase and even gaining projectile attacks. Thankfully, the game gives you a password when you die to resume the last level you were on, but it always starts you at the beginning of that level with the same starting inventory. There are also different structures you can enter, some with items not seen in Cloudy Mountain, like a camel that can cross deserts, and hammers that can knock down fences. But all these are single use, so if you need to pass 2 fences, you'll need to collect 2 hammers from 2 separate dungeons. You can see what items dungeons contain when pausing the game on the overworld. There are also fairies you can find in certain structures. They will help heal you if you're damaged, but if you're at full health, they will go into your inventory, and if you collect 4 of them this way, you will gain an extra life. The game also uses scoring unlike Cloudy Mountain, and gaining 20,000 points will also gain you an extra life. On the overworld map, touching certain areas will make a butterfly appear. He will only follow you into certain dungeons, but if he does, that means a hidden extra life is somewhere inside. When you're near the hidden extra life, the butterfly will hover over it. Shooting that area will reveal a classic Namco flag that can be collected for the extra life. Getting out of the dungeon also means finding a key before going through the exit door. Each dungeon contains minor enemies along with unique, tougher enemies that often make noise. One of them will drop a key, but they can also drop other stuff, like a secondary exit door, a shield that will make you temporarily invincible, able to defeat enemies by touching them, and a quiver that makes your next 3 arrows fire arrows, which do 5 times the damage of a normal arrow and can even defeat the orbs, which are otherwise invincible. The Cloudy Mountains can be located in unseen areas when you start later levels. They contain a healing pool and an area that will lock you into battle with the dragon. He can be tough to beat, but if you do lose a life while you're battling him, if you have an extra life in reserve, he will actually retain the damage from the previous battle should you reach him again. And by the way, there are 2 Cloudy Mountains in the final level. Also, should you take too long in any dungeon, some intense music will start playing, and an invincible centipede-like creature will attempt to track you down if you don't find your way out first. Graphically speaking, this is a decent looking game with some okay cutscenes. Sound-wise, the sound effects are okay, some of the music is pretty solid, but the dungeons typically have no music. Family-friendly wise, the game would most likely get an E for everyone rating it for release today. Currently at pricecharting.com, the game has a value of $11 loose, $20 complete, and $64 new. So what do I think of Dragon Buster 2 for the Famicom? Overall, as a fan of Cloudy Mountain for the Intellivision, I was able to enjoy this spiritual sequel. It does a good job building on a formula and bringing it to the next generation of gaming. However, it's not without several issues. Rather than the dungeons being randomly generated, they seem to repeat layouts a lot. This can make things a bit boring at times, but learning the layouts did help me finish later levels. I also found the game almost too difficult at the end, due in large part to your attack. Arrows move a little too slow for my taste, and when you miss an enemy, it simply takes too long to wait for that first arrow to disappear so you can fire again. This can make a single miss against some fast-moving enemies both deadly and frustrating, especially against the hopping enemy who can be difficult to hit, turning a minor enemy into a major nuisance. However, on the flip side, since you can fire immediately after hitting an enemy, you can actually get in a ton of shots quickly on them, especially against the large dragon. This made beating these behemoths a lot more manageable. Overall, this is a game that may not appeal to the average NES fan, who may get frustrated with these hangups and the different style of gameplay. But as a fan of Cloudy Mountain, I was able to get enough enjoyment out of the game to play it to the end, although it may not be a game I return to often. So where am I going to rank Dragon Buster 2 for the Famicom? Since the Famicom is basically the same as an NES, I'm going to rank it on my rankings of NES games I've previously reviewed, and for this game, I'm looking somewhere in the 40s. I think I'd be more likely to play WrestleMania again at 45 before Dragon Buster 2, but I will give this an edge over Star Force at 46. So out of the 68 games that are now ranked for the NES, Dragon Buster 2 is debuting at the 46th position. If you're a fan of Cloudy Mountain on the Intellivision, you might want to check out Dragon Buster 2 on the Famicom. But that's just what I think. What do you think? Have you played this game or have any memories of it? If you're a Cloudy Mountain fan, does it look good enough to try? Let me know in the comments below. Also, please like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter and support the show at patreon.com/nosweargamer. And click the bell so you don't miss any future videos. Thank you for giving me a little part of your day, and I look forward to see you next time in the next episode of the No Swear Gamer. Take care, and if you ever enter a dungeon, watch out for those stupid hopping creatures.